Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopikante Radhakante Namostute तप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। बोलो श्री राधे गोलोकानंद भगवान की जय। बोलो श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय।
Jai. Hare Krishna, everyone.
हरे कृष्णा तरुण, हरे कृष्णा जय।
हरे कृष्णा
तो रीना जी हरे कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्णा भैया, हरे कृष्णा एवरीवन।
कृष्णा भाभी जी हरे कृष्णा। हाँ, हेलो मयूर हरे कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्णा।
कृष्णा हेलो ईशा कृष्णा।
हरे
हरे
कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्णा रवि। ऑलराइट,
हरे
सो
कृष्णा। हरे कृष्णा everyone।
या सो लास्ट वीक हम लोगों ने कैंटो 4 कंप्लीट करे, राइट। द कैंटो 4 इज about the creation of the fourth order, and what we were reading about was the descendants of Shambhu Manu. Yeah. So Lord Brahmaji, and then first Manu in this day of Lord Brahma, right? One day of Lord Brahma is 4,032,000,000 years. In this day of Brahma, there are 14 Manus. The first Manu is Shambhu Manu, and we are reading about all the descendants of Shambhu Manu and how the fourth order was created, right? So we read about Shambhu Manu's 3 daughters, yeah, and Dehuti, Prasuti, and Akruti. And Dehuti married to Kardam Muni and then had 9, and then had son as a Kapil Muni and had 9 daughters who married to all the other Rishi Munis. And then we were reading about King Uttanpad, right? So King Uttanpad and then the descendants which had Maharaj Dhruv. So we read about Maharaj Dhruv and then Prithu Maharaj and all the descendants, right? And that's what, and a lot of Vishnu Stuti. We read about Prachetas, right? Prachetas doing tapasya for 10,000 years under the sea water and doing the Purushottam Stuti given by none other than Lord Shiva. Yeah, and then we read that beautiful Purushottam Stuti. So now we have completed Canto 4, yeah, and we are going to start the Canto 5th, says the creative impetus. And the Canto 5th has the second son of Shambhu Manu, Priyavrat. Yeah, so this will be, the starting with the activities of Maharaj Priyavrat. Okay, so we'll start reading about this. And so before we start the Canto 5th, as we talked last week, we will be doing some quantitative numbers. So the facts which are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, and we'll revise those facts. So it should take us like 20 to 20 minutes or so. Once we are done, and then we will start the Canto 5th and the chapter 1st. Yeah. So, yeah, is that okay? So I think we'll take like kind of 20 minutes break, go through all the quantitative facts, which are like foundational facts, right? Like the foundational facts in the sense that those are facts we should know, right? Like how the body is composed of, like Panchatattva, right? What are those 5 elements? What is Suksham Sharir? What is one day of Lord Brahma, right? I think those things we should know. So I think let's do that. Let me bring up Ishan. So, give me a second. Okay. And you are able to see the screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a quiz. You are just we'll just review some of the information before we get into the fifth canto, fifth skanda of Srimad Bhagavatam, and which also answers the question which Mayur had done last, before a few weeks when Mayur had joined. She had asked, like, as a Grihast ashram, how can you do the devotional service? And that is the question which is answered in the first chapter, right? So we'll get to that, but let's start with the quiz. And well, we haven't kept any awards for the right number of answers, but let's start going. Oh, just a second, sorry, let's restart.
I did my homework, so
All right, good. That will be nice. So let me just bring this up PowerPoint again. All right. So we'll start with this. So the first question is, where did Sud Goswami ji recited Srimad Bhagavatam? What was that place where this Srimad Bhagavatam was recited by Sud Goswami ji?
Naimisharanya.
Naimisaranya. Thank you, Rina ji. It's a great. So, right, as everyone knows, Sukdev ji was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj at Ganga Tat. Sud Goswami ji was present when Sukdev Goswami ji was reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam. When the Kali Yuga started, all the Rishi Muni headed by Sonak Muni gathered at Naimisaranya. And Naimisaranya is the place where they requested Sud Goswami ji to recite the whole Srimad Bhagavatam again for Kali Yuga, because we are the conditioned souls. For our benefit, Sud Goswami ji recited the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. Right. Thank you, Rina ji. Nice. Okay. Who was head of all the Rishi Munis who were gathered at Naimisaranya? So all the Rishi Munis were headed by, I actually just mentioned that, right? Sonak Muni. Yeah. So Sonak Muni was the topmost Rishi, right? And he was the head of all the Rishi Munis who gathered. And then on behalf of all the Rishi Munis, Sonak Muni requested Sud Goswami ji to recite Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah. All right. So now is the real math. How many cantos are there in Srimad Bhagavatam? How many skand or the books? Are
18.
there?
18.
No. 18 are the adhyayas in Gita, in Bhagavad Gita.
12.
12 cantos.
12. Yeah. There are 12 cantos. Yeah. So 18 is the adhyaya in Bhagavad Gita, right? With 700 shlokas. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 12 skandhas, 12 cantos. Yeah. 12 books, and we just completed fourth canto, right? We just completed fourth canto. All right. So here just some test. Name some of the 18 Purans. Right? We think Srimad Bhagavatam is a compilation of all the Purans. So some of the Purans you might have heard of. What are their names?
Vishnu Puran.
Vishnu Puran,
Shiv Puran.
Shiv Puran,
Skanda Puran.
Skanda Puran, yes. So there are 18 Purans. Let's do some more. So you had Vishnu Puran, Shiv Puran, Skanda Puran, right? Here the Vaman Puran, then we have Varaha Puran, Markandeya Puran, right? So like that there are almost 18 Purans, and 18 is a Srimad Bhagavatam, is also a Puran, Srimad Bhagavatam Puran, right? I think we should, sorry, what's that? Yeah, and then we have Vaman Puran, like Lord Vishnu. If it's easy, some of them are easy to remember. Like if you look at Lord Vishnu and some of the Lord Vishnu's avatar, right? So you have Vishnu Puran, Then Vaman Bhagwan is also Lord Vishnu's avatar. So you have Vaman Puran. Then Varaha is also the first Vishnu avatar, right? So there is a Varaha Puran. So three are like just like it: Vishnu Puran, Vaman Puran, and Varaha Puran. Yeah, and then you have Shiv Puran, of course. So some of the names you can just remember like that. Yeah, and of course Srimad Bhagavatam Puran. So nice. Let's move on. Who manifested Srimad Bhagavatam? So who compiled Srimad Bhagavatam?
Vyasji.
Vyas.
Vyas.
Yeah, that's right. Ved Vyasji. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So Narad Muni, if you remember, Ved Vyasji compiled all the Vedas and Purans, and then he was still not satisfied. Kali Yuga was about to start. That's when Narad Muni appeared and he told Ved Vyasji that you are not satisfied because you haven't really compiled something which will create the devotional service into all the conditioned souls, because that's the only way they can get back to Godhead. And then Ved Vyasji compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam. Nice, yeah? Good. So how many shlokas and adhyayas are there in Srimad Bhagavatam? How many shlokas are there?
18,000 plus.
18,000.
Yes, yeah. 18,000 shlokas in Srimad Bhagavatam. Compared to Bhagavad Gita, which has, how many shlokas are there in Bhagavad Gita?
800.
700 shlokas.
Yeah.
Yeah. 700 shlokas in Bhagavad Gita
Mm.
and 18,000 in Srimad Bhagavatam. And in fact, actually, there's a Shiv Puran going on in HSNC temple right now by Vedanti Ji Maharaj. If you remember, once Vedanti Ji had come and he spoke about Srimad Bhagavatam in our session as well. He is giving Shiv Puran. Shiv Puran has 24,000 shlokas. Okay. So, and what else? So, adhyayas. How many adhyayas are there total in Srimad Bhagavatam? Do you remember? How many adhyayas? Like we have 18 adhyayas in Bhagavad Gita, so there are 332 adhyayas in Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, 332. All right, so now is the one. How long is one day of Lord Brahma? How many solar years of Lord Brahma?
4 billion and 320 million years.
Yeah, 32 million. Yeah, 4 billion, 32 million years. So one day of Lord Brahmaji resides in which lok?
Brahmalok.
Brahmalok, yeah. And Brahmalok is also called the Satyalok, and that is the highest lok in this material universe, is the Brahmalok. And there in Brahmaji's this one day is 4 billion 32 million years. And many times you have heard about the word kalp, right? Like ek kalp kitna. So that one kalp is one day of Lord Brahma, which is 4 billion 32 million years. Yeah, is one day of Lord Brahma. What is the age of Lord Brahma? Right? So it's mentioned. अभी जो आप mute पे हो.
Infinity, like no age.
No, yeah. So that's a very good answer and question here. Also, is that so? It is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that Lord Brahmaji also resides in the material universe. Yeah. Anyone who is in the material universe has a life span, right? So there is a life span starting from, there are 14 loks, right? We'll talk about that. Topmost is Brahmalok, but Brahmaji's age is 311 trillion years.
Trillion years.
Yeah, 300 trillion years plus is Brahmaji's age. Yeah. So Lord Brahmaji has also done great tapasya, and we'll read about that, but that's the expected age. Yeah. Now, why is this human birth so fortunate in this particular yug? This is not quantitative, but it's mentioned that Lord Krishna appears as is in one day of Lord Brahma, Lord Krishna appears only once. Right? So for like all the avatars appear, right? Like Lord Vishnu's avatar appears. So we know Lord Ram, Lord Narsimha, we have Narsim Jayanti coming up on Thursday. So, but only once in 4,032,000,000 years, Lord Krishna appears, and that happened 5,000 years ago. Yeah, we know that Lord Krishna appeared as is. And also before 500 years, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, who gave us this Mahamantra of Hare Krishna. I mean, he recited and renewed the Mahamantra of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Right? So it's mentioned that also in Kali Yuga, we don't have to do that much tapasya like Rishi Muni used to do for 10,000 years and all that, because we cannot do it in Kali Yuga. So just chanting the name of Hare Krishna Mahamantra itself is going to purify the conditioned souls and take us back to Godhead. So that's why the human birth is so fortunate. And it's mentioned that there are two types of yonis, right? One is Karm Yoni and Bhog Yoni. All the other species, right? So we have 8.4. How many million species are there? Kitni lakh yoni bolte hain?
84 million.
84 lakh, yeah.
84 lakh, which is 8.4 million species, right? 84 lakh. Yoni mein only the human beings, Manushya Yoni aisi hai, which is Karm Yoni. It's called Karm Yoni. Like we have freedom and independence to do some karma, good karmas. All the other yonis, right? All the other animals and all the other yonis are bhog yoni, like based on the karmas, all these other bodies are there to get the bhog of the karmas which are done. In Manushya Yoni also we get the karmas fall, but at the same time we also create the karmas, and we can actually, and this is an opportunity to go back to Godhead by Shravanam, Kirtanam, devotional service. Yeah, that's why this human birth is so important, that we should really think twice before wasting too much of time in so many different activities, right? Devotional service is the primary activities. Now, I think most of us know this. What are the names of 4 Vedas?
Sam Ved, Yajur Ved, Arthar Ved, and
Rigved.
Rig Ved.
Rig Ved, yeah? Yeah? So, Atharved, Rig Ved, Samved, and Yajur Ved are the 4 Vedas. Cool. Yeah, this should be easy. Name some of the avatars of Supreme Lord Krishna, or Shri Lord Vishnu.
Matsya, Vara, Kurma,
Mm-hmm.
Parshuram, Gautam Buddha,
Buddha, yes.
Vaman,
Vaman avatar.
Narsimha Avatar.
Yeah, Lord Narsim avatar, and there is a Narsim Bhagwan Jayanti on 4th May. Yeah, 4th May, there will be a huge yajna in ISKCON temples. Generally, they do Lord Narsim Bhagwan yajna. So Lord Narsim Bhagwan, of course, Lord Ram, right? Lord Ram, even Ved Vyasji are supposed to be avatar of Lord Vishnu. Lord Kapil, yeah. So some of the avatars of Lord Krishna and Lord Vishnu. What are the 3 modes of material nature? So it is mentioned that when this material nature is created and we condition souls, we get impacted by 3 modes of material nature. Yeah, 3 gunas.
Yeah, mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance.
Ignorance, yeah. Yeah. So there are 3 modes of material nature you would have heard about: Satogun, Rajogun, and Tamogun.
Tamogun.
Right? So all of us are impacted by either we have some Satogun, some Rajogun, and Tamogun. Right? Those are 3 modes of material nature. Mode of goodness is Satogun, mode of passion is Rajogun, and mode of ignorance is Tamogun. Yeah? It's mentioned that once we get into highly devotional service and self-realize, then we get out of those 3 modes of material nature. and become eligible to go back to Godhead. Okay. Okay, what are the names of 4 yugas? Like this is Kali Yuga, right?
Satyug, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali.
Right. So Kali Yuga, then Dwapar Yuga,
Treta
Treta,
and Satyug.
and Satyug. Yeah. Yeah. So 4 yugs, we should all remember Kali Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Satyug. Yeah. Cool. And the descending yugas see a gradual decline of dharmas, wisdom, knowledge, intellectual capability, lifespan, emotional and physical strain. Yeah. I think as you were mentioning last week, like what they were doing for 10,000 years, right? They had that strength. So in Satyug, right? And so as the Satyug is the highest yug, then it's Treta Yuga, then Dwapar Yuga, and then Kali Yuga. So in Kali Yuga, we are the least inclined towards dharma and knowledge and intellectual dharmic capabilities. All right, now is the real mathematics. So how long is Kali Yuga duration and expected age of human being in Kali Yuga?
100 years, right?
100 years is the expected age of a human being. Yeah, in Kali Yuga, the expected age of human being is 100 years. And how long is Kali Yuga? What is the duration of Kali Yuga? You remember, we talk about it all the time. 432,000 years. Yeah, it's mentioned there that the duration of Kali Yuga is 432,000 years. Then Dwapar Yuga. How long is Dwapar Yuga duration and expected age of human being? Right. So the Dwapar Yuga. So if we add 432,000 to Kali Yuga, right? That is how long the Dwapar Yuga is. So that is 864,000 solar years. That's how long Dwapar Yuga is. And the expected age of the human being in Dwapar Yuga was how much?
10,000.
Is 1,000 years.
1,000, yes.
So 100 years in Kali Yuga, 1,000 years in Dwapar Yuga. And that is why, you'll hear, like, we'll read all these stories, right? Like this Rishi Muni was, doing tapasya for 100,000 years and 10,000 years and all that. So it is not just a number, that was the fact, right? Because like Dwapar Yuga is 1,000 years, is 864,000 years long, and the expected age of a human being there was 1,000 years. Yeah. So next is how long is Treta Yuga duration, and what was the expected age of human being in Treta Yuga?
Treta Yuga is 1,296,000 years.
Yeah, 1,200,000 whatever. Yeah, so 1.2 million. Yes. So that is if you add 432,000 to 864,000, right? The Dwapar Yuga is 864,000. If you add 432 to that, it comes to 1.2 million something, which is how long is Treta Yuga. Yeah. And the expected age of human being in Treta Yuga was
10,000.
10,000 years. Yeah. So 100 years in Kali Yuga, 1,000 in Dwapar Yuga, and 10,000 in Treta Yuga. And then how long is Satyug duration and expected age of human being in Satyug?
Yeah, so Satyug is 1.728.
Correct. So if you add 432,000 to 1.2 million thing, it comes to 1.7 million something, which is how long Satyug duration is, and expected age of human being in Satyug is 100,000 years, right?
100,000.
Satyug, the expected age is 100,000. It's very easy to remember because Kali Yuga is 100, Dwapar Yuga is 1000, Treta Yuga is 1000, sorry, 10,000, and so Satyuga is 100,000 years. That was the expected age. It's good to know that because when we read that this Rishi Muni was present for 100,000 years, Prachetas did tapasya for 10,000 years. That was real. Yeah. So I think, okay. Let's see how long. And so now the question is, how long is the entire Yuga cycle? The whole Yuga cycle, which consists of all the 4 yugas. Yeah. Kali Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, Satyuga is called one Yuga cycle, and that is known as a Divya Yuga. So one Divya Yuga is equal to all the 4 cycles. So if we total up all those things, it comes to around 4,032,000 years. Yeah. So actually, if you see, it's so easy to remember, right? Once you remember, Kali Yuga is 432,000 years, right? Then every other Yuga is, you just keep adding 432,000. And if you total up everything, it's 4,032,000. Sorry, 4,320,000. Yeah. Years. So that is one Divya Yuga. Okay, now what are the building blocks of gross body? Like this Sthul Sharir is made up of what elements?
5 elements. Agni, Vayu, Prithvi, Akash, and Jal.
And Jal, yeah. Thank you, Ajay. So this Sharir, right, this body, which we call is gross body, and in Hindi we call it Sthul Sharir, is made up of 5 elements: Prithvi, Agni, Jal, Vayu, and Akash. Yeah, so I think all of us know that, right? Those 5 elements, we should know that because this is how our body is made up of. So we should know that there are 5 elements, which are the main foundational elements of the gross body is Earth, yeah, Vayu, Jal, Agni, and Akash, sky. Yeah. So that is the Sthul Sharir. So then what constitutes the shuttle body? The shuttle body is the Suksham Sharir. So what is Suksham Sharir? What constitutes the Suksham Sharir?
So Man, Buddhi, and Ahankar. Mind, intelligence, and self-ego.
Right. Thank you, Ajay. Yeah. So the Suksham Sharir is mind, intelligence, and self-ego. Man, Buddhi, and Ahankar. Those 3 elements. Man, Buddhi, and Ahankar. We should remember this because when a human being gives up this Sthul body, yeah, and he takes another body based on the karmas, the Suksham Sharir goes along with the soul. Okay. But when the whole conditioned soul is purified, then they go back to Godhead. When they go back to Godhead, the Sthul Sharir also doesn't go with them, right? Then they have a new spiritual body. Yeah. And the spiritual body never perishes. There is no concept of time in the spiritual world. Right? If you have any questions, just feel free to jump in, yeah, in between. So who recited Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit? This should be easy. Who recited?
Sukhdevji.
Sukhdevji. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Hari. So Sukhdev Maharaj, yeah, Sukhdevji recited Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit. And Sukhdev Goswami was son of whom?
Vedyas.
Vedvyasji, yeah, thank you, right? So Sukhdev Goswami was son of none other than Vedvyasji. Vedvyasji compiled this Srimad Bhagavatam. So there is no better person than Sukhdev Goswami ji, who was even a bigger brahmachari and a biggest devotee, to recite this Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. Yeah, and we know the whole story of Parikshit Maharaj and how Sukhdev Goswami ji was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. He only had 7 days to live, and it was mentioned that by just reciting and listening to Srimad Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj went back to Godhead, Lord Krishna's abode. Yeah. This we already talked about, but who recited Srimad Bhagavatam to all rishis at Nemi Saranya? Right, our very first question was, who recited Srimad Bhagavatam at Nemi Saranya? Yeah, remember?
Suji.
Who was present when Sukdev Goswami was reciting this to Parikshit Maharaj?
Shanak Muni.
Narad Muni? Oh,
Uh,
sorry.
Narad Muni actually gave this whole Srimad Bhagavatam knowledge to Ved Vyasji. So Ved Vyasji could compile the Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? This whole thing came from Narad Muni. Lord Brahmaji gave it to Narad Muni. Yeah, Lord Vishnu gave it to Lord Brahma gave it to Narad Muni gave it to Ved Vyasji. Ved Vyasji gave it to Sukdev Goswami ji, who recited to Parikshit Maharaj. And at that time, yeah, and and then Sud Goswami ji was present when Sukdev Goswami was reciting. So Sud Goswami ji recited it to all the Rishi Munis headed by Sonak Muni. So Ajay, when you said Sonak Muni was the head of all the Rishis. But Sud Goswami ji recited that. Yeah. And Nemi Saranya is a place in UP actually. And like, that's where Bhagavatam was recited. And actually in Prayagraj, where Shiv Puran was kind of recited. Should know those places. We should try to visit when we get a chance.
I am from Prayagraj actually. So.
Yeah. Nice. That's so lucky. And so as we know, right, when we were reading Srimad Bhagavatam, there was a conversation going on between Mahatma Vidur and who was the Rishi? No, who was the Muni whom Mahatma Vidur was asking the questions to? Yeah. Maitreya Muni, remember?
Maitreya Muni, yeah.
Yeah. Maitreya Muni was answering all the questions to Mahatma Vidur. Like when we read 4th canto about Shambhu, Manu and all descendants, all these questions were being asked by Mahatma Vidur to Maitreya Muni. Yeah. And I don't know if you remember how many solar years in one divine year. One divine year is one Devata's year. Yeah. So there are 360 years in 1 year. So 1 year of Devatas is equivalent to 360 years. Yeah. Solar years. Like we saw 1 year of 1 day of Lord Brahma is 4,032,000,000. But 1 year of Devatas is 360 solar years. That is also called as one divine year. Yeah, big question. How many cantos we have completed so far?
4.
4, right? So we have completed 4 cantos out of 12. And we are going to start 5th canto in just few. Yeah, so I think we'll end this quiz here. It's almost also getting time. But I hope at least it was good to get some facts, right?
One request, भैया.
Yes, बोलिए.
Multiple choice होना चाहिए.
Yes. I know. I just didn't have time to put that together. Otherwise, I would have done that. But the request understood. Next time, maybe I'll try to give multiple choice. All right. So I think since we only have 10 minutes left, let's just at least start. We'll start reading the Canto 5th, chapter 1st. Yeah. So let's do some reading. And then we'll pause for a kirtan. So we'll do 5 minutes reading and then pause. Yeah. So the chapter 1st is about the activities of Maharaj Priyavrit. Okay. And there's a summary of chapter 1 given here. So we'll read the summary first. So let's read this. Ajay, you answered most of the questions. Why don't you start with?
Because today after coming back from work, I did some homework. So that's why I could answer.
Nice, nice. This is good, right? It's really nice to know all this information. You know?
Yeah. And this chapter describes how King Priyavrat enjoyed royal opulence and majesty, and then returned to full knowledge. King Priyavrat was detached from worldly opulence, and then he became attached to his kingdom. But finally he again became detached from material enjoyment and thus achieved liberation. When King Parikshit heard about this, he was struck with wonder, but he was somewhat bewildered as to how a devotee with no attachment for material enjoyment could later become attached to it. Thus, in an astonishment, he questioned Sukdev Goswami about this. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so as we know, Sukdev Goswami ji reciting Srimad Bhagavatam to King Parikshit, right? And the story is about the Maharaj Priyavrat. And Maharaj Priyavrat is the second son of Shambhu Manu. Yeah, the first Manu. We are all Manu Santan. First Manu is Shambhu Manu, Priyavrat Maharaj, second son of him. And so he was attached to the kingdom, but then he again became detached and achieved liberation. So Parikshit Maharaj is really bewildered. He's asking, like, how can this happen? Because a devotee doesn't get attached to the material enjoyment. And I think, Mayur, you are asking the similar question. I think so. We'll get an answer to that
Yes.
in this chapter, right? So let's continue reading. So Mayur.
Sure. In response to the king's queries, Sukdev Goswami said that devotional service, being transcendental, cannot be deviated by any material influences. Priyavatra had received transcendental knowledge from the instruction of Narad, and therefore he did not want to enter a materialistic life of enjoyment in a kingdom. He accepted the kingdom, however, at the request of such superior demigods as Lord Brahma and Lord Indra, the king of heaven. Hare Krishna.
Sunila Bhagaji.
Everything is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller, and everyone must work accordingly. Just as a bull is controlled by a rope tied to its nose, so all conditioned souls are forced to work under the spells of the modes of nature. A civilized man, therefore, work according to the institution of Varna and Asarma. Even in materialistic life, however, no one is free to act. Everyone is compelled to accept a certain type of body offered by the Supreme Lord and thus be allotted different grades of happiness and distress. Therefore, even if one artificially leaves home and goes to the forest, he again becomes attached to materialistic life. Finally, life is compared to a fortress for practicing sense control. When the senses are controlled, one may live either at home or in the forest. There is no difference. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so it's all about the sense control. It doesn't matter whether you are home or in forest. Yeah. You ready? Reenaji?
When Maharaj Priyavrat, following the instruction of Lord Brahma, accepted the royal throne, his father Manu left home for the forest. Maharaj Priyavrat then married Barhismati, the daughter of Vishwakarma. In the womb of Barhismati, he begot 10 sons named Agnidra, Idmajiva, Yagnabhava, Mahavir, Hiranyareta, Gritpristha, Savan, Medhatithi, Vitihotra, and Kavi. He also begot one daughter whose name was Urjaswati. Maharaj Priyavrat lived with his wife and family for many thousands of years. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Tarun?
The impressions from the rims of Maharaja Priyavratra's chariot wheels created 7 oceans and 7 islands. Of the 10 sons of Priyavrata, 3 sons named Kavi, Mahavir, and Savana accepted sannyas. The fourth order of life and the remaining 7 sons became the rulers of the 7 islands. Maharaja Priyavrata also had a second wife, in whom he begot 3 sons named Uttam, Raivata, and Tamasa. All of them were elevated to the post of Manu. Sukadeva Goswami thus described how Maharaja Priyavrata achieved liberation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So that was a summary of the chapter 1. We'll just do one shlok today and then pause. Yeah. So Isha.
Raja Priyavrata Bhagavata Atmarava Kathamune Gehe Ramatayan Karmabandha Parabhava. King Parikshit inquired from Shukadev Goswami, O great sage, why did King Priyavrata, who was a great self-realized devotee of the Lord, remain in household life, which is the root cause of the bondage of karma, fruitive activities, and which defeats the mission of human life? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So I think we are going to pause here and then we are going to continue reading the next sloks from tomorrow. Yeah. And let's hear a bhajan and happy Ekadashi to everyone.
Happy Ekadashi.
It's Mohini Ekadashi today. And actually, Virendra Prabhu is not there today, but he sent me a bhajan, Radha Vallabh Hari Vans, and it's sung by Sri Rajendraji Maharaj. Rajendraji Maharaj is also a big Bhagavad Katha Vachak in Vrindavan. It's one of the topmost Katha Vachak. Yeah. So we'll hear the bhajan, 5 minutes, and then go. Yeah. It's 5 minutes bhajan.
जय जय राधा वल्लभ श्री हरि वंश जय जय श्री वृंदावन श्री वन चंद जय जय राधा वल्लभ श्री हरि वंश जय जय श्री वृंदावन श्री वन चंद जय जय राधा वल्लभ श्री हरि वंश जय जय राधा वल्लभ श्री हरि वंश जय जय श्री वृंदावन श्री वन चंद जय जय श्री वृंदावन श्री वन चंद जय जय राधा वल्लभ श्री हरि वंश जय जय श्री वृंदावन
All right. So I think today we spent good time in just learning some of the things, reviewing some foundational aspects, right? कल से हम लोग शुरू करेंगे अध्याय 1 का सेकंड श्लोक, yeah? And we are also going to hear Narsingh Stuti, yeah, Narsingh Kavach and Narsingh Bhagwan Stuti tomorrow and day after tomorrow. For this week is Lord Narsingh Bhagwan week, yeah. Thursday is the Lord Narsingh Bhagwan Jayanti. So, okay, Hare Krishna, and
Hare
see you
Krishna.
tomorrow at 10 p.m.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.